On this channel, I talk about cybersecurity. Sometimes I give advice, sometimes I review things. Every single time, I am acting as if I know what I am talking about. Yep, I have told you all that I am an expert. I said in one of my previous videos, I called myself a cybersecurity expert. If you're interested in a cybersecurity expert's view, said that I was giving a cybersecurity expert's view on a video from Veritasium. I have future videos coming out where I'm reviewing movies and TV shows and that cover cybersecurity, and I'm calling myself an expert. But if I'm an expert, can I pass a basic cybersecurity exam? Can I pass the standard entry-level cybersecurity certification exam? That's right, I'm talking about Security Plus. Security Plus is pretty much the de facto standard for entry-level cybersecurity certifications. It's used by the Department of War to allow people to be IT administrators. They have to have a basic understanding of cybersecurity to be IT administrators, and so they have to get a certain level certification, and most people get the Security Plus. In the military, people often get Security Plus when they're first entering the cyber career field. And it's an entry level. It's basic. It's something people get at the beginning of their careers. Can I even pass this? Can I do well? Well, in 2 days, we're going to find out. I just registered for the Security Plus certification. I will be taking it at 11:30 a.m. on Thursday at I think it's Florida State, what do we got here? Florida State College, Jacksonville, downtown campus. And we will see if I even know what I'm talking about. Now, most jokes aside, why am I doing this? Well, for the last several months, I have been teaching a Security Plus class to several students in Hawaii. As part of the Hawaii Cyber Project, I was contracted by the Kauai Economic Development Board to help with this, and I've been teaching this class in the evenings, and I'll actually be starting up another class here soon. It's just my way of giving back to the community, and Hawaii in particular has a very large growing market for cybersecurity professionals. It's just a great opportunity to work with individuals from there who are looking to break into the field. And mostly I just went through the topics and taught everything from my experience. But I really wanted to see if everything I'm teaching makes sense and to really understand the certification exam before I close out these classes. Rather than just going through the topics and teaching what I know, I actually want to prove that I know what I'm talking about and actually take the certification, as well as make sure that I am thinking about everything that would go into the certification. I'm understanding the types of questions that are being asked. So because of that, I scheduled this certification exam on Thursday, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how I did. I am here just outside of Florida State College, Jacksonville, downtown campus, where I will be taking the Security Plus certification exam in about 15 minutes is when my scheduled time is. I haven't prepared at all, which is a bit of an exaggeration because I have been teaching the class for several months, so of course I'm familiar with the topics, and I have been going over them with my students, but I haven't taken any practice tests or done anything in particular to prepare for today's certification exam. I've mostly just been reviewing the material over the last several months in relation to the class that I've been teaching. But the reason I haven't done any specific practice tests or anything like that is I really just kind of want to go in a little bit cold and just kind of get an idea of like what do I know and what don't I know, and so that's basically the goal of today. So I will be starting this exam in about 15 minutes, and I'll let you all know how it goes. All right, I completed my certification exam and I passed. I think you can see there I got an 806 out of 900. This is significantly better than I did. Well, I don't know if it's significantly better. I think I got like a 790 something like 8 years ago when I first took it. And back then I was studying a lot more. I did a lot of practice tests and practice questions, etc. But I also had a lot less experience, so it was I was kind of just running based off of my studying rather than based on experience. If I had to describe the certification exam in just one word, I would say my word is disappointed. I continued in my car to talk a little bit about what disappointed me about the Security Plus certification, and I decided to collect my thoughts and instead re-record here at home so that I could clearly explain what I thought was wrong with the certification exam. If I had to kind of summarize it, the real challenge, I think, is just that the certification exam questions were not really super well thought through. I don't think that enough sort of eyes or something were put into making sure that the certification exam questions were very clear and had a clear purpose aligned with some sort of foundational topic that the examiner or the examinee would actually need to know. So what I mean by that is that many of the questions were sometimes almost just wrong in a sense, not in the sense that the answer was wrong, but more in the sense that the way the question was asked was not really aligned with reality, or there were actually multiple options that were equally correct. And one option might be more obvious to someone who is just learning, but that doesn't actually make it any more correct. And when I was answering the questions, I kind of just went for that. I was like, well, if I was a beginner, I think this is the question that they would want me to pick, but that's actually not necessarily the right answer. And I just don't really like that because it becomes ambiguous. And I think if we're actually just trying to test, like, hey, do these people understand the things that we need to know them to know to break into this industry, there really should be a right answer. And there should be a reason that that answer is right and not the others. There also were some, I think they called them like performance-based questions. And obviously I can't get into it, but I feel like I can't explain what they were. But I felt like those performance-based questions were just completely absurd. One was good in the sense that it was very accurate, but it was much more difficult than I think anything else. And the kind of the things that you would have to understand to answer that question were actually quite advanced, and you would have to be quite technical to answer that particular question. And some of the other ones were, in my opinion, so basic that they were wrong. It was almost a bit of like Dunning-Kruger in the sense that if you kind of were overconfident in your knowledge based on having a basic level of understanding, you'd be like, oh, this is clearly right, but actually it's not. If you actually understand how security works and how again, it's really hard to kind of explain it without giving away the answers or the questions. But if you actually understand how these things work, you would be like, no, this is not obviously that. There's more information that is needed to really answer this question properly. I think there was just a lot of that in general in the certification exam, and I just really didn't like that. I will say one thing that I did see during the certification exam that I think just kind of highlights overall the challenge, which was at one point there was a question. Obviously, I won't say what the question was, but they used the term CISO, or some people say it's CISO, but I'm going to say CISO. CISO is the Chief Information Security Officer, and that's usually the person in a company that's going to be charged with the cybersecurity program. The certification exam wrote it as Chief Intelligence Security Officer, which to me is just, if you can't even put the right words for the acronym of the person who's in charge of a cybersecurity program at a company, then you clearly just don't know what you're doing. And I don't know if that means that these questions are just created by Gen AI or some kind of LLM, or where these questions are coming from. But I just feel like that was just so emblematic of everything else that was going on in this certification exam. The fact that they couldn't even get CISO correct. Like, if you can't even get CISO correct in one of the questions, and I know in general, like, I understand mistakes happen, and some people might be like, well, it's just an honest mistake. But really, it's not just an honest mistake, because it's so emblematic of everything else I saw in this certification exam. So I personally was not a fan. I understand that writing these certification exams is a lot of work. It's very hard. But I do think that I honestly expect more of CompTIA. Personally, it's still the #1 most recognized certification for entry-level people in cybersecurity. So I still recommend going after it, but just know that it's, the actual question writing is, in my opinion, pretty low quality and needs a lot of work. And in my opinion, definitely not worth the over $400 that the certification exam costs for people to take it. So I really expect, I honestly feel like CompTIA should do better, and I think they can do better. And that would be kind of my final takeaway from this video, is that CompTIA should do better. and this certification exam needs a lot of work. That being said, many of the questions still cover the basics, and if you still have a general understanding of the basics as outlined in the certification exam topics that are listed on CompTIA's website, you will be able to do well on this certification. And if you look into various study materials on PACT or Professor Messer, etc., those will align with the topics that were covered in the certification exam. So you can still prepare. Those are still ways that I would recommend preparing, but just, kind of be ready for some, in my opinion, poorly written questions. And if you already have experience in cybersecurity, just be ready for some of the questions, in my opinion, to be quite wrong and for there to be multiple correct answers. And really, they're just as correct. It's not like one's better than the other one. They're really multiple correct answers, and they're just as correct. At least that was my takeaway from this certification. I will still be teaching my students, still be preparing my students for Security Plus, because as I mentioned, it is the most widely recognized entry-level cybersecurity certification. And so I still think it's the best one for them to learn. And I still think that if we focus on those topics and, with this feedback in mind, and them focusing on the topics, they will be able to pass. I still think I can help get them to pass. However, I was thinking before creating this video of actually making some YouTube content about Security Plus. And I know for those of you who are, potentially some of you who are following my next generation firewall certification, don't worry, I'm still going to finish that. But I was thinking about, later on making some topics for the Security Plus certification. And honestly, right now, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I think given the kind of how uncomfortable I am with the way that CompTIA has written the certification exam questions, I really just don't want my channel to be associated with that certification exam. It's really just not something that I believe or can support at this time. So I'm not going to be doing that. If you feel differently and you feel like you do think I should put some content out there to help people prepare for Security Plus, please put that in the comments. I'm open to feedback, open to changing my mind, but right now, not that excited about it based on what I saw today in the certification exam. If you feel differently, if you think that I'm crazy, you've taken the Security Plus exam, certification exam recently, and you thought it was normal, then please let me know. I'm open to feedback, open to discussion. It's a little bit hard to really debate these things because I can't really say what I did or didn't see in the certification exam. I can only kind of summarize or call out very specific things, but I can't say, well, this was an example of a question that was just completely absurd. You just have, unfortunately, if you haven't taken it, you just have to take my word for it. And then if you have taken it, you're going to have your own opinion, so you either agree with me or not. So it's something that's very difficult to debate. But I am open to everybody's feedback, and definitely let me know if you feel similarly or differently based on taking the exam recently. As always, I'm always open to your comments and feedback and thoughts. If you'd like to see more of this type of content, you want to see me take more basic level certifications and provide my review, please let me know in the comments as well. Always open to everybody's feedback, and I will see you in the next video.